Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the LT Senior Services webinar series for 2021. We are so happy to have you here today. We're going to get started right now. We always like to start on time with our webinars. My name is Cindy Cummings, and I am one of the members of LT Senior Services. LT Senior Services is a nonprofit, and the purpose is, you're looking at the website right here. The purpose is designed as a Lake Travis resource to serve and engage aging adults and their families in the community. And typically we would have webinars or actually we would have seminars in person, but of course with COVID we're not able to do that. Now that we're doing our webinars online, what we're finding is we're having people from all over the city participating. With our snow today, we might have had to close our webinar or our seminar, so it's really exciting to be able to have the webinars. We are anticipating having our Wellness Expo in September of 2021. We are hoping and praying that COVID will have subsided by then and we'll be able to have our wonderful event that we've had in the past. So be looking for more information about that. Our seminar today, let's talk a little bit more about the LT Senior Services. LT Senior Services has 40 members, and there are for-profits and nonprofits that are part of our group. And what we really want to do is just helping aging adults in the Lake Travis area. And we do that by providing these webinars. We also have done food drives. We have done paper shredding. And we are working on doing emergency kits in case there's an emergency for those aging adults. So we're really excited to be working with some of the people from Lake Travis, Lakeway, and other places to get those kits put together. So that's one of the things that we're going to be working on for 2021, just in case we have some kind of emergency in the future. I'd also like to introduce our members who are on the call. So I'd like to bring Morgan in. Morgan, are you there?
She will be.
All right. In the background, you hear Natalie. Natalie is my right hand, and she has helped us so much in these webinars and getting the word out. And she's the person that you're probably emailing or texting to. So we're bringing in Morgan, and Morgan is with the library, the Lake Travis Library, and they have been a great partner for us. Morgan, are you there?
I am. I think I can't turn on my video, but hello.
Oh, shoot. Well, we'll work on the video. You start talking and Natalie will see if she can get the video working.
I'm the director of the Lake Travis Community Library. In the olden times, we got to host these Lake Travis Senior Services programs at the library. We can't wait to get back to that one of these days. But I do want to tell you, if you don't already know, even though the building itself is closed, we can still get you books and movies and magazines and audiobooks. We have a curbside service 6 days a week. Actually not today because of inclement weather, but you put an item on hold, either yourself in the catalog or email us or call us, and we contact you when it's available. You drive through the parking lot, pick up your items, and we can still get you books. So please use us. We, of course, have virtual story times and book clubs and other programs, but we would love to continue to work with you even in these unusual times. So come see the library. Thanks.
Hey, Morgan, one of the things that I love about the library and what they offer is the technology help. So tell us a little bit about the technology help. How could I get help? Like if I'm trying to get on Zoom or I'm trying to get my phone to work or things like that. How do I get help?
Two things come to mind. Every Wednesday morning at 10:30, we have a Zoom tech class. At that time, you can ask open-ended questions. Each week does focus on a specific lesson, but every Wednesday morning at 10:30. So laketravislibrary.org on our website, you can find that link to join that class. We also have wonderful tech coach volunteers who can respond to you by email or even a phone call. So tech coach at laketravislibrary.org. And they can also help you one-on-one.
Thank you. We're all learning new things. I was just saying yesterday, my head hurts from just having to learn all these new ways of doing things. But
I know what you mean.
I think it's good for your brain. I think that's a good thing. Well, Morgan, thank you so much. And we certainly appreciate your participation and helping with these webinars. And we look forward to being back at the library soon.
Me too. Me too.
I think we have Ann Malodley next. Ann is one of our great partners, and she is with Be Well MD. And gosh, I've known Ann for how long? 5 years, I guess now. But she is part of Be Well MD, and they do concierge work. And I think that she will come in. Hey, how are you, Anne?
Hello.
Hello, we can see and hear you. Tell us a little bit about Be Well MD.
All right. Be Well MD is a medical practice designed specifically for seniors. All that we do is take care of seniors in their homes. Dr. Mark Carlson, who you'll meet, have you mentioned Dr. Carlson, Cindy?
Not yet, not
Okay.
yet.
So you all be meeting Dr. Carlson very shortly. He is the founder of Be Well MD. He is a board certified fellowship trained geriatrician and is our medical director. So we visit seniors in their homes this is designed for individuals who maybe have little mobility or have chronic conditions or who just don't want to leave their home. Dr. Carlson makes personal visits. This is a 24/7 access type of medical care. Once you become a patient of Dr. Carlson's, you will receive his cell phone number as well as the cell phone number of the rest of our medical team. And you will be able to access him by phone, text, Zoom, and in person at any time. We become the hub of all of your other medical services. So if you're receiving therapy or you have specialists that are on your case, if you have a lot of medications, we coordinate all of that within our team.
Excellent. It's just like that family doctor going to the home years and years.
Yes, the good old fashioned home calls. Yes.
Are you finding that you're doing more Zoom calls than in person right now? What are people
Well,
up to?
actually, it's a nice mix. So we are doing so many, as you know, as all of us, we are trying to limit our travel outside of our homes, especially in high traffic areas. So yes, Dr. Carlson spends a lot of time doing medical visits, consults via Zoom. We're probably about half and half, 50-50 visiting in their homes and the other half doing virtual.
So you'll do whatever the client wants.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, Anne, it's so nice to see you again. Happy New Year. It's great
Thank
to
you.
see your
Happy New Year,
face.
everybody.
Yes. Okay. Do we have any other members, Natalie, that want to be introduced? And we're going to just look and see if we've got maybe somebody in the chat. If you can.
So far, but I'll take one more scroll.
Okay, great. So Anne is one of our 40 members, and they have been a great partner, provide great information. I'm going to go ahead and stop Anne's video. Okay, there we go. We're getting pretty fancy here. I didn't even know Zoom before March 18th or whatever. So we're all learning as we're going, that is for sure. So I wanted to talk about our future topics, and this is our website. You can go to it. It's ltseniorservices.org. And here you will find information about upcoming webinars. So if I click on upcoming webinars, you'll see the information about the topics. Our topics coming up is downsizing, right sizing, and simplifying, which is a perfect topic right now because it's a great time to get your house in order, because we're stuck at home. So this will be a great seminar for people who are having trouble getting started, don't know where to get rid of things, is it appropriate, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a great, great topic. After that, we have having it your way, even when you can't speak for yourself. I love this topic. And what it's going to be talking about really is advanced directives and how it is a gift for your loved ones as well as yourself. So we have great panelists for this. I'm really excited for it. And that's going to be in March. And that's March 8th. The other is February 8th, downsizing, right sizing, and simplifying. I think we are ready to go ahead and introduce our speakers. So Natalie, if you don't mind bringing them in while I do their intro, that would be great. So we have Dr. Mark Carlson. He is with Be Well MD. And Dr. Carlson is a fellowship trained board certified geriatrician, internist, and oncologist with 25 years in the healthcare experience. He received his medical doctorate from Loma Linda University in California, and he completed his geriatric medicine fellowship at the University of Hawaii in Honolulu. Prior to his move into geriatrics, Dr. Carlson spent nearly 20 years of practice in medical oncology, where serious illness had to be managed with the latest in medical technology, compassion, and a trusting patient-doctor relationship. Dr. Carlson combined this experience with a strong desire to help seniors in the aging process to create Be Well MD. Be Well MD is a medical practice designed specifically for aging adults, providing the highest medical care to individuals living in private residence and in senior living communities. Be Well MD also provides transitional care for seniors discharged from hospital and rehab back to home. Dr. Carlson's personal mission is to help seniors live healthier and happier lives. Welcome, Dr. Carlson. Next is Julie Latson, MHA. She has spent the last 16 years working with seniors and their families, helping them navigate the healthcare system. She graduated from Sam Houston State University with a bachelor's degree in sociology and completed her master's of healthcare administration at Texas State University. A Texas native, Julie's introduction to healthcare came when she served as a patient advocate at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. With the desire to return to Austin, the bulk of Julie's experience has been in Austin's senior market. She has worked in independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing, both in operations and sales roles. She is currently employed with Halcyon Home, a provider of private in-home care, home health, and hospice services. Julie's passion for helping families connect with resources stems from her own family's need for such help. Her grandmother battled Alzheimer's disease for 10 plus years, which highlighted the necessity for coordination of care from a holistic perspective. When not working, Julie enjoys spending time with her husband and her two young, rambunctious boys, which we understand might be coming into the room and asking her for a snack during the webinar, which that's just the new way of life. You know, you got dogs and cats and kids and garbage men and lawn service, and it's crazy. But welcome, Julie. We're happy to have you on the panel today.
Thanks, Cindy.
Michael Gill is president of Texas Senior Living Locators. He's a leader in the senior living industry in Central Texas. For the past 9 years, he has owned Texas Senior Living Locators, a service helping families of seniors find assisted living, independent living, as well as retirement living and memory care. As such, he keeps in close contact with the 200 senior living communities in Central Texas. Boy, has that blown up. 9 years ago, how many communities were there, Michael? When you
Probably only about 130.
130, yeah. Austin is a hub, definitely, for new senior livings. Mike is a certified senior advisor whose senior living experience includes caring for his own mother in an Austin memory care facility for over 4 years. Prior to the senior living community, Mike had a long career in finance, working with JP Morgan as a bond broker and with several high-profile firms as an investment advisor. Welcome, Michael, to our panel.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this screen. And we have a list of questions that we'd like to ask y'all. And as we go through this, you know, we understand there's a lot of confusion and things going on. We just appreciate you giving us any kind of help with this whole COVID and the vaccine and what's going to be going on. To start, we're going to have Dr. Carlson just give us a general overview, and then we'll start asking some of the questions that have been submitted. So Dr. Carlson, who is still Anne Maloney on your screen.
You taught me how to do it badly because I didn't learn.
Oh no,
So,
we're trying to help him change his name.
Yeah, maybe I'm a bad learner. I'm not sure. But
I don't think you
I
are.
apologize. No, I am Mark Carlson. Anne Maloney is my trusted colleague and partner. But anyway, I just want to spend a little bit of time telling you what we do know, and unfortunately, more importantly, what we don't know about this vaccine. And it is generating a lot of confusion in the community at large. And I think that's largely due to the fact of the logistics surrounding getting 300 million people in a country, 300 million plus people in a country vaccinated in a short period of time, and 7 billion people vaccinated worldwide. So first of all, I'm just going to go through the who and when. So what is this? There are 2 vaccines, as you've probably heard, and there are others that are pending. But the 2 vaccines that we have on the market, the first one was from Pfizer, and the name of that is BNT162b2 technically, but the name that it'll go by when you get your vaccine is the Pfizer vaccine. And the other one is the Moderna vaccine, or mRNA 1273. But again, Moderna vaccine is the name that you'll know it by. These 2 vaccines have been approved by the FDA. They've gone through the initial clinical studies looking at safety and efficacy. Both of these vaccines have proven to be very effective, meaning the efficacy of preventing COVID-19 disease in those who've been vaccinated is upwards of 90%. There are no head-to-head comparisons between the 2, and so we do not know which one is better. And that goes not only for efficacy, but also side effects. The side effect profile has, generally speaking, for both of them been very acceptable. Things like mild muscle aches, chills, maybe a low-grade temperature, and then local site injection pain or discomfort. But those are all very manageable, very mild. In the case of the Pfizer vaccine, I believe they looked at 1.8 million vaccinations in the initial study, and there were 11 serious reactions, what we call anaphylaxis. And so 11 out of 1.8 million. And that is a very low rate. And so I can tell you with confidence that this vaccine is effective based on what we know right now. And it is also very safe. And so who should be getting the vaccine? And if you're living and human, you should get the vaccine. There are a few exceptions, but those exceptions are pretty uncommon. The first would be an allergic reaction. So if you got your first dose and you had an allergic reaction to it, then you should not get a second dose. Or if you're allergic to polyethylene glycol, for instance, that's a very uncommon allergy. I've never encountered a patient that I know of with polyethylene glycol allergy. And if you have that allergy, then you shouldn't get it because the vaccines use polyethylene glycol. And then beyond that, things like being pregnant, being immunocompromised, having had COVID-19, all of those things are relative contraindications and indicate that you should talk about it with your doctor to carefully weigh the pros and cons, the risks and benefits of taking the vaccine. But in general, in my patient population, which are those at most risk, i.e. the elders, and most of whom have chronic medical illnesses, I have recommended all of them thus far to get the vaccine. I have not told anybody not to, and that includes not only my patients, but my colleagues and my family members, and I am on the list as well to get it. I've had many of my colleagues who have already had it, and thus far, the anecdotal reports that I'm getting is very favorable. Nobody is having any trouble with them. And so when should you get this? And the answer is as soon as possible. And that's where a lot of the confusion is, because we are in phase 1 of vaccination. And in Texas, we've got the Emergency Vaccine Action Plan, EVAP. And phase 1 has been divided into 3 phases, 1A, 1B, 1C. 1A was the hospitals. And for the most part, the people in the hospitals, the personnel in the hospitals who are caring for COVID-19 individuals have already been vaccinated. They received those shipments approximately a month ago, and the hospitals immediately started vaccinating those personnel in the hospital. And now we're on to 1B. Phase 1B is indicated for healthcare workers outside of the hospital. So individuals like myself, whose practice is so small that we don't have access to the vaccine ourselves. And part of the reason there is that the minimum order for a vaccine shipment was 1,000 doses. And so you had to have the capacity to use 1,000 doses. And my practice was small enough that I didn't have that capacity, so I didn't even try to order any. And then another limitation is that the Pfizer vaccine requires a minus 70 degree freezer in order to store it. So a lot of practices didn't have that. And now the Moderna vaccine has been on the market for about 3 weeks, I believe, and you don't have to store that at minus 70. So the Moderna vaccine is a little more flexible. But anyway, we're in 1B, so it's the outpatient healthcare workers who are going first. And then it is individuals who are 75 plus and or living in long-term care facilities. Those individuals are indicated next up, and they are currently being prioritized. And then once they get through the vast majority of those individuals, it will broaden to 65 plus and then move into 1C. The EVAP has contracted with HEB primarily in Texas to be the pharmacy of choice to be administering these. We are keeping in touch with HEB on a weekly basis, and the response that I'm getting as of last Friday is still keep calling. We just don't know when you're going to be able to get on the list. But what I'm recommending to all of my patients is that they keep calling, keep checking in on the website, and as soon as the schedule is available for them to sign up, to do so. That's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing within the practice, and what I'm recommending to patients and my colleagues and family. So anyway, that's kind of the what, the who, and the when. And I know that there are many, many questions around this regarding blood type and vitamin D and which one you should get. I'm constantly being asked or being told and then asked. I prefer getting the Moderna over the Pfizer or vice versa. And the answer to that question is, well, you may have a preference, but that is only based on anecdotal evidence because there is no data directing us as to safety or efficacy as to which one is better. And so right now the CDC and the FDA have approved both of them, and they are considered equivalent in my mind. And I believe most physicians believe that they are equivalent. And so therefore, whichever one you have access to first, go for it. And then there's ongoing questions about hydroxychloroquine, zinc, treatment, etc. Sorry about that. So anyway, that's what I've got to share. And maybe now, Cindy, if you have any questions, we can use that context to answer them.
Great. Okay, so let's just start. So we understand there's an organized rollout of the vaccine to groups of individuals with priority needs, such as healthcare workers, seniors, et cetera. And you basically gave us an update on the rollout of the progress at the local level. One thing that you mentioned is keep on calling or go to the website. Where are we calling and what's the website? And we'll put that in the chat.
So right now, I am keeping in touch with HEB because the Texas EVAP, again, has contracted with HEB, and I believe they've received 190,000 doses.
Wow.
And they're going to be responsible for the distribution and administration of those during phase 1B.
So call HEB.
Yes. And
Okay.
I believe up in the Dallas area, Kroger's has also received shipment.
Okay, first shot info. And then what website do you go to?
The HEB pharmacy website is the one that I've been checking in, but don't be surprised if you get into kind of an endless loop of their looking at their vaccine site, it directing you to another page, and that just directs you back to the initial page, and you never seem to get any new information. That's where I've been, and talking to the HEB pharmacist, I don't have any better information for you than that. And that's as of last Friday.
Do you think that there will, and this is a question really for everybody, do you think there'll be a better way to get information? And Michael and Julie, do you have any websites or any other way that people might be able to find out where they would be on the shots? So Michael, where do you go for info?
Every time I've gone any place for information, it's a circular logic type of thing where you never quite get any place and there's nothing there that's particularly useful or helpful. There have been some websites where you can get a map of who's got what going on, and there are a few other places in town that do have, or at least on the maps, such as Terrytown Pharmacy and people like that. But when you call them, they don't have any information. Also, you see in the news that people that I guess Austin, Travis County got an additional 1,200 vaccinations last week that were going to be soon distributed, which is nothing. Dr. Carlson went ahead and mentioned that there's 190,000 shots here in Texas. Well, we've got what, 26 million people. So, that's about 0.8% is all that we've got so far. So we are very, very early in the response, in the vaccination response to the pandemic. Remember, this thing's going to last a long time. And there have been things where we've been saying, or we've been reading that there's going to be 1 million shots a day nationwide. Well, that means it's going to take at least a year if we don't ramp up quickly to get things going. So people need to have realistic expectations. The realism is that we're very early on so far, and most of us won't get shots until the second quarter of this year.
So I guess to me, what I'm hearing and I'm learning is we just need to be patient, and it's not that you can't find the information. The information really isn't in one place that you can go to. It's not very organized, I guess.
Yeah,
It's not organized. And remember, we don't have a precedent for this either. The last major pandemic, of course, was the Spanish influenza, and that burned itself out without a vaccination. The last time we had a really big vaccination campaign was for polio back in the late 50s and early 60s. And that was spread out over a 7 to 10 year time frame between the different vaccinations coming online. So this is unprecedented. It's going to be messy. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be a lot of outrages that will be stirred up by the media and politicians. But this is just what happens in a pandemic, and we have to be patient, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think
Michael, I think all of that is accurate, and patience is the key.
Do you think that people, this is not a question, do you think that people might just go to Mexico? Does Mexico have it? Because how sometimes you can go to Mexico and you can get stuff cheaper and faster. Is there a place in the world you could go that you could get a shot quicker?
Not that I'm aware of. I would think that other countries, you might be able to buy a vaccine or buy your way to the front of the line, whereas hopefully we can't here in the United States. But I don't know if there's going to be any vaccine tourism.
Yes, or Canada. Maybe Canada will have it. That'd be fun. I just want to go anywhere. I'd go to Laredo. Julie, did you have a comment about the?
Someone also just mentioned in the chat about the Texas Health and Human Services. They do keep a fairly updated location for maps of where to get the vaccine. Most of the senior living communities have utilized CVS or Terrytown Pharmacy, so not HEB, as far as I know.
So Julie, you are very involved with senior living, as is Michael. So tell us a little bit about the senior living communities. They bought the vaccines and in bulk, I guess, because they could do 1,000 or more. Tell us, do you know anything about that?
Really, all I know is that most of the residents have taken the vaccine as it's been offered. Terrytown has administered vaccines to the people that they have on service, and then CVS has helped to administer to anyone else who's interested in having it. And basically, pretty much I'm hearing mostly upwards of 95 to 100% participation in getting the vaccine. And then for communities that have multiple levels of care, so nursing, assisted living, that are maybe connected to an independent living, those independent living residents are also being offered the vaccine.
So they got the vaccine under the premise of for their most elder or their most, I they're not sick, but what do I want to say? Most vulnerable. But then they had enough to be able to offer it to other people who were over 65 and living in independent living. So should we all just go move into independent living so we can get a shot?
That's true. Most of the somewhere between half and 2/3 of senior living communities have gotten the shot. It seems like so far. There was a federal program that you could sign up for, and the federal program was distributing it all through CVS and Walgreens, and that's why it all went that direction. There were a few of the larger companies that were big enough to get their own distribution, people like Brookdale. But it seems, but as Julie said, there was a big concern that a lot of the seniors were not going to get the shot, that there's going to be 20 to 30% of people opting out. I would say in any given community, there's less than 5 people that have opted out. What's more concerning is about 1/3 of the healthcare workers or the workers, the caregivers in these communities have opted out. So a very large percentage of the workers, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me, but that is what's going on.
Mm. And so right now, I think that businesses and corporations are having ethical questions about whether they have to require their workers to have the vaccine or not. Have you heard that being something that some of the businesses might require?
They can. At this point, I don't think that they can require it. The communities that I serve, there's a higher participation rate amongst the staff. The problem is there hasn't been enough to administer to all of the staff.
So
So
they're concentrating on the seniors and then they run out. And yeah. But Michael, I had heard that figure too. So then that impacts, well, there's just a whole set of questions about what we get to do once we have the vaccine. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so no trip to Mexico or Canada right now, darn it all. Can you describe the 2 different types of vaccines from the different pharmaceutical companies and what the audience should know about each? I think you answered that pretty well, Dr. Carlson.
The one comment that I would have is that the dosing interval is different between the two. And so in Pfizer, with the Pfizer vaccine, there's a 3-week interval. So they recommend 3 weeks after the first dose getting the second dose. And with Moderna, it's a 1-month interval. And those intervals are such that if you don't get it in that timeline, i.e., what if you're delayed, you get ill, or you're traveling and something prevents you from getting it at 3 weeks or a month respectively, then they recommend in both cases to just complete it as soon as possible and not to worry about that timeline. And keep in mind that the immunity is boosted up. So with 1 dose, for instance, you might achieve 70% immunity. So 70 out of 100 patients will achieve immunity with just 1 dose. And by getting the second dose, then we boost it to that 90, 95% level. And so just because you only get 1 dose, if that would happen to you, it doesn't mean that you have absolutely no benefit. It just means that your chances of developing immunity is a little bit less.
And so we did have a question from one of the participants. He sent it ahead of time. He said, I got my shot. What happens if they run out and they can't give them a second shot? How likely is that? Or do you think it's better planned than that?
I think that it's very unlikely that for that to happen, because these facilities are making every effort to track the doses that they've given, and then the fact that they need to reserve a dose for the individual 3 weeks or 4 weeks later. And so I don't believe that we're going to run into that problem. I have not heard of that problem personally to date.
But that is a worry, for sure, if they run out or they don't get their shipment or whatever. So I think it's a valid concern for sure. We already talked about the effectiveness. And do you anticipate a shortage of vaccine before it gets to the general population?
Well, Michael's giving the answer. I mean, there's already the shortage just based upon our expectation. Everybody wants this vaccine and we want it now. And so that shortage is such that logistically we're just challenged with getting enough produced and distributed equitably. But ultimately, I believe that there's so much understanding of the need here that that everybody probably within the first 2 or 3 quarters of this year will have access to a vaccination if they want.
Oh, wow. That's great. Julie, do you want to talk to us a little bit about senior living and the distribution of the vaccine and what you've seen so far? You talked a little bit about it, but tell us a little bit more.
I mean, and Michael chime in, but my experience from what I've seen is that most of the senior living communities have had access to the vaccine and majority of the residents have taken it. In terms of being able to offer it to their staff, what I have heard from the management side is that management didn't necessarily push it for the staff for the first round because they were not sure the volume that they were going to be able to offer based on the interest from the residents. So when they got in another shipment of their vaccine to either finish out their community or whatever, that's when they were making the larger push to get their staff vaccinated, because at that point they knew what the interest was from the seniors. So at some of the larger communities that I serve, I think their participation rate amongst their team members has been closer to about 80%. But I mean, that's just a small pocket that I'm dealing with. Michael may know more on that. So yeah, I definitely think there's a huge amount of participation amongst the residents. And they've been on lockdown for so long. They're so ready to see family and have more of that connection. Yeah.
But that just starts a whole conversation, Julie. One of my questions is, now that I have the vaccine, can I see my grandkids? And it's a whole nother conversation about, that's great that you're vaccinated, you have the vaccine, but does that mean that it's safe for you to go hug your grandkids? So does anybody want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I would say that there should be a proper waiting time to allow the individual to develop the immunity from the vaccine. But then at some point, relatively soon after the vaccination series, I think it's reasonable for those individuals to assume that they have immunity, even though it's not perfect. Meaning we know that there's going to be 2, 5, 7% of the population who gets the vaccine and do not become immune. But the assumption is that they are immune, and my recommendation is that they can go ahead and safely start resuming normal life as if they were immune. Because if we don't start living again normally, and assume that we don't have it and assume that we have to continue these precautions, then basically we're living isolated for the rest of our lives. And the CDC right now, we don't have the capacity to test immunity for everybody. And so they're not recommending antibody testing for anybody. And so, yes, I think it is going to be the recommendation at some point in the near future that after the vaccination series, we're going to be able to resume a normal life, or with caution, with reasonable caution, i.e. if your grandson has a fever and was recently exposed, you're probably not going to want to make that contact right then. But otherwise, we're not going to have to be as fearful as we have been in the past.
How long of a waiting?
I think that's a really good message, because basically what it is, it's a calculated risk. And the risk is far, far lower after getting the vaccine. There's still an awful lot we don't know about the vaccine, though. For example, are you actually, completely immune, or are you just going to get the virus and have much less reaction to the virus or whatever? People, this is something we're going to be living with for a long time. And so we can't go out and start licking doorknobs, for example. We have to just take appropriate precautions and resume normal-ish life, but recognize this SARS COVID-19 is going to be with us for the rest of our lives in some way, shape, or form. And everybody's going to get it going forward, and there'll be a small subset of the population that will get it. Hopefully the vaccination will keep people from getting it really badly. Isn't that right, Dr. Carlson?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Michael. And the severity of infection, all of the data that we're gaining, whether you've had COVID-19 in the past and get it again, or get the vaccine, or perhaps have had a coronavirus illness in the past, not COVID, but another coronavirus in the past, it appears that it does confer some immunity so that if you do get the COVID-19 infection, then your severity is likely to be less. And so that's an excellent point, is that this is a calculated risk. I mean, all of us take a calculated risk every day when we wake up and get out of bed. How many people have we heard of, especially in the elder community, who go to the bathroom, fall down, break a hip, crack their skull, have a bleed, and they never make it back to their homes? Unfortunately, that is a calculated risk, that it's better to go to the bathroom than not. But we still have to live. And that's where all of us have to take these reasonable risks in order to live.
Do you think there's going to be a black market for it? You think somebody
No.
might do a heist and steal, like diamonds or pearls or something? You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think that our government would come down so hard and so fast on them that it's not a risk.
Okay. What a silly question. So sorry. Michael, question for you. I know that we've heard lots of speculation that many people will opt out of receiving the vaccine, either because of concerns the vaccine was rushed to market without sufficient testing or because of general anti-vax sentiments. What have we seen in the senior living communities so far? We've talked a little bit about that, but what else have you seen?
No, we've seen that. It's interesting. The residents who have opted out, it's typically not the residents who are opting out. It's the families of the residents who are opting out. The seniors seem to be completely, completely on board with taking it, and I think that's because generally they're quite compliant with what the doctors tell them to do.
It's those darn adult children. They're just meddle in everything, right?
That's right. Like I say, what's funny is just how many of the healthcare workers, the caregivers that are opting out. And as I understand it, that's true even in hospitals and other highly credentialed places that a lot of people are not getting the vaccination. And it's curious to me because the anti-vax crowd doesn't understand everything. Not that I understand everything, but they don't understand. This is not like we used to use a live virus or even a dead virus to try and stimulate an immune response. This is a completely different technology that does not give anybody the virus. It is the chance of side effects is really remarkably low.
So it is a different kind of vaccine that we're not used to seeing. And so because of that, it's safer than other vaccines.
Exactly. The messenger RNA is a completely new technology.
New technology. Is there a difference in the formula between the first and second shot? This is one of our questions from our chat.
No.
Okay, so it's going to be the same ounces or whatever and exact same shot. Okay. Michael, what do you think? And Julie, this is a great question for you too. What do you think will change in the senior living communities once they all have their shots and they've gone through their 2 shots? Do you think things will change there, or do you think it will remain the way they are right now?
Well, the short term, what's going to drive the way senior living is being run is regulatory. It's not going to be up to the local community. So we're still going to have the ability to do visitation, but we're only going to be able to do the visitation with the 2 essential caregivers. That's going to continue until the regulators decide otherwise. That's going to continue probably until we have all the vaccinations and plus 2 weeks. So if everybody started getting the vaccinations, say right around Christmas, and then it's 3 to 4 weeks after for the second vaccination, and then there's 2 weeks after that before we get full immunity. The earliest everybody can have full immunity in the senior living community is going to be about mid-February. And then there'll be some places that won't get it as quickly. So it might be, let's say March 1st is when all the vaccinations are given in the senior living communities. That's when we might find more information coming on out, but the regulators are not on top of things yet. And so we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know if you're still going to have to wear masks. We don't know if you're going to be able to go out and do weekend visits at home and then come on back without having to isolate again, things like that. Julie, have you seen other things? Have you heard other things than that?
No, I think you're right on the money. They're following, what the regulatory requirements are. I think that there has been a heightened, of course, focus on infection control in all of the communities, and really made a lot of the senior living communities look at not just the infection control piece, but like staffing. What does it look like when you're on lockdown? What does it look like when you have a COVID outbreak? Are good systems in place, to move forward? And it's highlighted a lot of areas for communities to work on and develop probably a more comprehensive plan with. I think that you'll see mass in senior livings for a long time, even as people get vaccinated, but it's all going to be based on regulatory leadership and what they're guiding these places to do. For
So
sure.
it's just not going to open up and come on and visit, let the families come in. Of course, the families aren't going to be vaccinated, so are highly unlikely that they would. We do have a question here. It is, I'm an essential independent caregiver. Where can I obtain the vaccine?
That's going to have to be from the community that you work with.
So you're going to coordinate that through the community, and they might have shots. I have a friend whose parents are in a senior living community. I felt like they said if you wanted to get a shot, maybe you could get on a wait list. That was a family member. Do you think that's going to be offered too?
Only to the essential caregivers, only the essential family caregivers.
Okay,
right
so
now, the only
somebody
people
who comes.
Allowed, right, the only people allowed in a senior community these days, and this is since early October, are 2 essential family caregivers per family.
Okay.
They have been offered in some cases the vaccination at some communities, not all.
Well, don't you think that anybody coming in is essential caregiver? I mean,
not per the state, how they define it. I would say for senior living communities, if that's where you're providing the care, their residents will be priority, their staff will be priority, and then essential caregivers would be priority, kind of in that order. So once you get through that group, I think then you would potentially be able to get in from the senior living perspective. Otherwise, you probably need to reach out either to your doctor's group or to HEB or something like that and start working to get on the list.
it seems like the quicker way might be through the community, because doesn't it? I mean, at least you have somebody to communicate with directly. We have some other question and answers. Oh, this person says she's not employed by the company. She works in private residence, so that's going to be real tough, right? Okay, I'm allergic to NSAIDs. I can't say, how do you say that?
Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
Is it still safe to get the vaccine?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you contact individual HEB pharmacies? The HEB near me will not answer the phone. There's only a recorded message.
Yeah, welcome to the world of HEB right now.
Wow, that's tough. So maybe go in. I don't know. Would it make a difference if you go in live?
Well, I don't think so, because I think what they are doing is, and this is just me reading between the lines, I think that they're putting into place logistically how they're going to manage this. And on their website, they say that the best way to get on their list is to download their app and look for their updates on the app. Now, of course, you could be cynical and think that that is just their way of getting you to use their app. I'm not sure, but
very smart, very smart. Good marketing.
Yeah, bottom line is, I think when they have their list ready to sign up people, they will put it on the website, and the phone lines will start opening up.
Okay. Another question. I missed the information regarding the second vaccine. This is a great question, actually. Will it be necessary to take the second vaccine at the same location as you received the first?
I don't know definitively for that, but given the management logistically, the answer is going to be yes. Or I should more, as I think about that, I think it's going to be easier for you to do it that way. Logistically, for you to get your first dose at HEB and then go to Walgreens, my suspicion is that there'll be a lot of extra documentation and paperwork that you'll be required to fill out. So if at all possible, I think it's going to be best for us to go to the same site.
Great. We read that Texas would have hubs for distribution. Is HEB a hub, or is this idea of hubs something else?
And whether these retail pharmacies are hubs, I have not seen them referred to them as such. I don't know if Michael or Julie have seen it referred to as hubs, but essentially that's what they are, meaning they are the retail distribution network that the state is relying on.
My impression was the hub was going to be Austin Public Health, who was then distributing it within the county. But again, that's reading between the lines.
Yeah, and whether you look at Austin County Health or the state health department as a hub versus HEB versus Walgreens, who knows? But in the emergency vaccination action plan that I read a couple of weeks ago, it did not refer specifically to hubs.
Of course,
I remember.
I think I've read that Texas maybe made some mistakes. Did they not ask for enough vaccines? What did you guys hear about Texas in general? And maybe, I forget, I think I read it on a blog or something.
Everyone has made mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So get over it and move on, huh?
That's my approach.
Okay. Yesterday, Austin came out and said that there would be info on hubs coming out this week. Well, great. Well, we'll thank you for that. I think we'll try to get more information. I think information is just going to keep on coming to us, and we're just every day I just get up and say I'm just doing the best I can. Put one foot in front of the other. And what do you think about? Listen, I'm so crazy. Should we go to another state? Is there another state that's doing it better? No. Just get over it.
Yeah, I think we are so early in this that if there's another state that is doing it significantly better, there's no way for us to know. And so, I think we just give Texas a little bit of time to get all this sorted out, and it will be sorted out.
Okay, we had some other questions. Let me see what I've got here. Yeah, his fingers. I love that. Virginia. Somebody said Virginia. Virginia's not that far to go. Could you go to Virginia for a month? I could go anywhere for a month at this point. I'm so over it. I don't know about y'all. Let me pull up our other questions. I'm ready to travel. Oh my goodness. So here's a question. Oh, let's talk about type O, doctor, just real quick, and everybody else. Are type O immune? What's the deal? Because we've heard so much rumor about that.
So I just looked at this, and there is suggestion in the data that type O individuals with type O blood have a reduced risk of infection and or severity. But that is only a suggestion, and we do not have definitive data confirming that. And so right now, it's
going to be fascinating to see the data. Don't you think afterwards, just to compile it and understand, because right now it's so confusing.
Yes, confusion abounds. But we, in terms of my clinical practice, blood type plays no role in terms of diagnosis, talk about prevention or any of it. So it's rather a moot point in most respects right now, meaning we don't make any decisions based upon blood type.
Okay. I know that there are some groups of people that might be more susceptible to, but that's a whole nother topic. Let's get through these questions. Doctor, I understand you've got about 5 minutes, so let's get through these. I'd like to know, okay, if someone has completed chemotherapy on December 29th, 2020, when could they safely get the COVID vaccine if labs look good post-chemotherapy and her physician has no issue with it?
It really would depend upon what type of chemotherapy, what disease status is. And in some respects, I could imagine being able to get or recommending that individual to get it almost immediately. But there's other situations where the oncologist would recommend that they wait. And so it's really, I don't think anybody could give you a definitive answer that covers everybody in all situations. So I think it's something you got to weigh the risks and benefits with your oncologist.
Okay. Somebody says they don't think I'm crazy, so that makes me feel a little better. Some of my crazy questions. Let me go to my question and answer. I don't see any other questions in there. I'm going to the chat to see if there's anything in there. Natalie, if I'm missing something, would you chime in and let me know? I think we pretty much answered questions. Does anybody have anything just in summary that they'd like to say? I know that our hope was to give people all the information that they needed. Oh, somebody's asking, when do they think HEB will have some vaccines? Any idea? No. We need to get somebody from HEB on here. I love HEB. Don't y'all love HEB? Oh my gosh, they've been wonderful. They actually gave LT Senior Services money to help with food distribution. So we applied for a grant as a nonprofit and they gave us money and we helped over 100 seniors distribute food to them. So they're a great company, that is for sure. Anything, guys, that I didn't ask you that has popped up in your head?
I did want to say one thing because I know we focused a lot on senior livings, but where I work right now, which is really for home health, hospice, and private duty agencies. So those companies, the good news is in Austin, there's a really tight network of these agencies that work together. There's an association that they're a part of that helps to facilitate getting different information out to folks, making sure everybody's looped in because we're only as good as each other. But the feedback that I got from specifically the home health, which would be folks that are needing like physical therapy in the home, things like that, it's been very hit or miss, their ability to get the vaccine. But when they do, they are having a high participation rate. So like, for example, the company that I work for, we have 100% participation for our hospice department. We've got about 90% participation for our home health. And we've had about 100 caregivers vaccinated. However, we've got a pool of like 400 caregivers, but we were also supposed to administer the vaccine last week. And at the last minute, our vaccine got pulled and directed to another area. And I think that's happening across the board, especially with some of the smaller agencies are really having a difficult time getting their hands on some stuff. So just wanted to.
Did you guys kind of pull together to get the quantity and then you just distributed it to all the people in the organization, or?
So my understanding is the association helped to guide them on the steps that they needed to do to get access to the vaccine. And then our administrator basically called day one, every place that she was told would potentially be a provider for us, and then just start getting on lists. And some people were submitting through online websites, through CVS, Walgreens, and then, waiting and trying to follow back up, and come to find out, something didn't happen. They weren't on the list. And the pharmacy would send them back to Department of Health and Human Services, and Health and Human Services would send them back to the pharmacy. So it's been, I think, a challenge for providers, especially those that are not operating on huge scales, to get their hands on some of the stuff. As I'm sure you've probably seen Dr. Carlson to some degree.
And Julie, somebody's asking where you work, and that's Halcyon. And we have the information of our speakers on our website too. So if you want to reach out to them, if you go back to our website, look at me doing some marketing, go back to our website and you'll see contact information for our panelists here today. Is being on a high dose of prednisone a negative for taking the vaccine?
It is not a contraindication, but being on prednisone at the time you get the vaccine is likely to blunt your immune response to the vaccine. And so again, it's just something that's relative, and we don't have definitive data to tell us that you can't get it. And it's not going to be harmful to get it on prednisone.
Excellent. Somebody said, my daughter had a reaction to the second shot that only lasted for a few days. She's a doctor. We've seen a lot of pictures of doctors and nurses, and the whole marketing campaign is trust science. Is that what we're hearing? Trust science when they're taking those?
Trust good science.
Trust good science.
Good luck figuring out which is good.
Yeah. And Dr. Carlson, isn't it true if folks are going to have a reaction, it's typically sooner in the process? It's not like a year out.
Oh yeah, if you're going to have a material reaction to this, you're going to notice it right away, almost, within the first 24 hours. The long-term possibility of things like neurologic effects, cardiac effects, we just don't know yet. But based on our experience with other vaccines, that risk seems low.
Okay. I want to just let everybody know that this will be posted on YouTube. We're getting all fancy and we have a YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch it, or if you would like a family member or a coworker or whatever to watch it, you can go to LT Senior Services on YouTube. I am not seeing any other questions, so I think we'll go ahead and close.
Cindy, I just add one thing.
Yes.
I'm going to add my email to the chat. If anybody has questions about anything from today or any upcoming webinars, or if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Natalie. She's got LB with her. He's 5 months today. Doctor, did you have any final words?
No, other than I'm late for my next meeting, so I'm going to bid everybody goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carlson. Michael, did you have any final words? Is there anything you'd like to say in final?
No, I just encourage people to be patient, because there's just so much that we don't know and that we haven't quite figured out, and it's going to be an evolution. And we're also going to be hearing an awful lot of negative comments from the press and other people about, why hasn't this gone better and who can we blame? That's what usually happens in all these types of situations, because this is a politically directed vaccination procedure, which is how we do things in a democracy, and that's fine. But don't get too down on the whole process, because we're figuring it out as we go along. There's going to be glitches, that's to be expected, and we will fix them. And hopefully nothing unforgivable happens, but there will be some unacceptable things, screw ups that are going to happen. And we should just anticipate that, because, this is a human directed process. So, don't get too negative on this whole thing, because it's not fun. Other thing I was going to mention is I did go to one website and they said, figure out where your place is in line. Mm-hmm. And that website, when I went and put my information in, said that 84% of Texans are going to be ahead of me in line, because I'm under 65 and I have no comorbidities. So,
darn it, you're healthy. You're a healthy person. Dang.
I'm unlucky in the vaccination line, but I'm lucky otherwise. So
right.
Everything's a trade-off.
Yep. It was so nice to have you guys on the panel today, and I hope that our attendees found some great information. I always do, and just appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy. You did a great job.
Bye, everyone.